Current world records, 7 world marathon major victories, and 1 past champion. Please welcome the following athletes to the start line. Headlining the women's field, Lisa Ewell of the United States, 2013 Bank of America Shamrock Shuffle champion, making her marathon debut. Amy Hastings of the United States, 2012 Olympian and winner of the 2014 Peachtree Road Race. Rohane Dibaba of Ethiopia, runner of the 2014 Tokyo Marathon. Mare Dibaba of Ethiopia, champion of the 2014 Xiamen International Marathon. Florence Kipchoge of Kenya, current half marathon world record holder and champion of the 2011 and 2013 Berlin Marathon. And Rita Jeptoo of Kenya, the defending Bank of America Chicago Marathon champion. And headlining the men's field, Crystal Landry, American 25K record holder and currently nominated for USATF Athlete of the Year. Wesley Korir of Kenya, champion of the 2012 Boston Marathon. Sammy Kidwara, third place finisher at the 2013 Bank of America Chicago Marathon. Tadassa Tola of Ethiopia, champion of the 2014 Warsaw Marathon. Eliud Kipchoge of Kenya, winner of the 2014 Rotterdam Marathon. And Kenenisa Bekele, current 5,000 meter and 10,000 meter world record holder and champion of the 2014 Paris Marathon. Ladies and gentlemen, the 2014 Bank of America Chicago Marathon Elite Field.
So we are just about set to going to do as well. What is going through their minds right now, Tony and Ed?
Well, you know, I talked to Kenenisa Bekele yesterday, and he said, I asked him, do you feel the butterflies? Do you feel nervousness like everybody else? And he says, you know what? I just feel happy. I feel concentrated, and he's not nervous at all before the gun goes off.
And he's coming from the track and field background. This is something new for him. In this global event, really, 199 countries, everywhere from Albania to Zimbabwe.
It's easier to tell who's not here than who is here. The world is in Chicago. The world is watching the start of this great race.
45,000 athletes. On your mark. And we are officially underway. The 2014 Bank of America.
A quartering breeze, nothing straight in your face.
The women's course record held by the great Paula Radcliffe. She set it in 2002, 2:17:18. And there's been a lot of whispering, not whispering, actually loud talk, that maybe somebody like a Rita Jeptoo or Florence Kipchoge, that would be in
Boy, it's a rough. That's just, I mean, no one's ever gone under 2:18 in the marathon on the women's side except Paula Radcliffe.
Right.
So 2:17 and 18 seconds isn't just under 2:18. It's a long way under 2:18.
It's a real tall order, but the fact that they're planning on going through halfway in 69 minutes would equate, if they did that evenly, then it would be 2:18. So if they come through at 69 minutes and then pick it up and start duking it out, and I think with Florence Kipchoge and Rita Jeptoo, it's a pretty good match. And so a lot of times for these course records to fall, not only do you have to have great conditions and good athletes, but you have to have great athletes that are racing over the last part of the marathon.
Okay, let's go to our marathon man in our men's lead vehicle, Greg Meyer. Greg, how's it shaking out so far?
It was amazing how quickly the lead pack just separated. Usually you see athletes looking around, talking, sort of getting a feel for that first mile. Not here. These guys seem very, very focused, looking straight ahead. The intensity, to me, is here from the start. We passed through the mile at just under 4:40. They are on pace to run fast. And the thing that's caught my eye the most is the intensity right from the gun. The pace setters are up doing their job. Everybody right there, no one looking around. Very intense.
Greg, Greg, we just see that first mile split at 4 minutes and 34 seconds. They can't get over-caffeinated, though, can they?
No, they can't. You know, this is going to be a war of attrition. This isn't going to be somebody that's going to break away. It's going to be who falls off the back. And you're going to see, it's like global warming. How fast is this glacier going to melt? That's what's going to happen today. This pace from the start is just going to lose people off the back.
Yeah, I'm telling you, 4:34, Ed, that's a little quick.
That's really dangerous and, in fact, suicidal.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping maybe the split was a little off, but the fact that they're going out that fast is just can really hurt you later on.
Isn't that usually the case at the start of the race because there is so much tension and you have a tendency to want to go on quicker?
Well, they built it all up, and again, when you taper, in other words, you've come off your mileage and the cream has now risen to the top and your legs are itching to go. I mean, when you do double workouts for 3 months preparing for this, you're always tired. Now you really cut your mileage down to let your fitness come into play, and you can't wait to get going. Last year they ran 4:47 for the first mile. 14 seconds under that. You don't front load the marathon. You don't put money in the bank. You withdraw your principal when you go too fast early on.
Well, as you look down now, I think we're looking at the women leaders right there, and you can see there for a minute. Now we're back to the men, but the men, I'm hoping that they're going to settle in, because if they roll off a couple of miles at 4:34, then they're going to get in danger. But you know, you go out fast that first mile, you settle in, and to me it looks like they've settled in a little bit more. We have the 3 rabbits in red. Those are our pace setters. Anyone that you see with a P50, P52, P51, those are our pace setters, and they're setting a nice pace, and I think they're going to settle in.
Just so you know, P50 is Tariku Bekele, the younger brother of Kenenisa Bekele. His training partner, Gurmay Gebrselassie from Ethiopia, is P51. Geoffrey Kirui of Kenya is P52.
So the journey has just begun, and we'll be back with more of the 2014 Bank of America Chicago Marathon after this timeout. Runners begin their journey in Grant Park, head through the loop, and then go north. At mile 8, Kai Martin greets the runners in Lakeview. Then they'll cut through Old Town, past the halfway point on Adams, and make their way to Little Italy. At mile 20, Andy Avalos awaits the participants as they enjoy the sights and sounds of the Pilsen neighborhood. 1 mile later, it's Byron Miranda's turn in festive Chinatown. Runners then make the turn for the home stretch through Bronzeville. The journey ends where it all began, in Grant Park, the finish line for 45,000 strong. We look at the men's leaders at the moment right now, and you see the women's mile split after their last mile, 5:43.
Right, and you can see that the 3 pacers in front, P51, P50, P52, leading the way, not just setting the tempo, but sort of psychologically breaking the air.
It was a 5:17, and they dropped back to a 5:43, so I think they're just, you know, jockeying for position and testing each other at this point.
Yeah, and Joni, the pacers on the women's side, because they're wanting such a stern pace, are actually 2 Kenyan men.
Right. We have Simon Koski and Richard Kipchoge. And they keep looking back.
Yeah,
they don't want to lose these women. They know they want to hit the 109 at the halfway mark, and I don't think they're going to get that mark unless the women start chasing the 2 pace setters. But now Amy has actually, wait a minute, we have something going on here. Amy Hastings has pulled ahead of all of them. Now remember, Amy's PR is a 2:27, and that really does not compare to the 2:18 of Rita Jeptoo. That's almost 10 minutes behind, and I'm really shocked to see Amy out here in front.
Joni, there's a lot of traffic there. Can the other women see that Amy has...
Well, I think they're seeing her now.
In that group?
I think they're realizing that now, but her PR is so far off of theirs that I don't think they're that concerned. But you know what's happened in past history in some of these big marathons. You know, you let somebody get too far ahead, and then you never forgive yourself.
certainly a bold move by Amy Hastings, considering that her personal best time is some 8 minutes slower than Rita Jeptoo's. So, but it's early, and I think they're just kind of settling in, I would guess.
Right.
Exactly, but Amy
not...
has been under the radar, and I know she's been training hard for this one. I think she would like to establish herself as one of the top American marathoners. She was 4th in the Olympic trials in Houston in 2012, so, you know, who knows?
Okay, let's go back to the men's race and the Xfinity World Record splits.
They went through 5 kilometers in 14:42. That's 3 seconds faster than last year's
record split.
Record split.
14:46.
And that's right in tempo. And right now, just the way it looks is they're right in position and looking very good. The Pacers seem to have hit their marks a little bit more and are smoothed out just a little bit. Here's a look at our men's splits from Dennis Cometto's 2014 Berlin Marathon in September. And they had 5 men still together at the 20-mile mark, and that's what led to the record. There was racing to be done after they went out at world record pace and then surged off of that. So we're looking at halfway, just a little bit under. So they ran the second half in 61 minutes and 12 seconds after a 61:45 first half. So we're looking for more even splits, and that's the modern day of running marathoning. You run the second half of the race faster than the first half.
Negative split's always the way to go.
And we will be back with more of the 2014 Bank of America Chicago Marathon after a break. Stay with us. It's going to be a great day. Pop up here sooner or later.
Honest to goodness. And Amy Hastings in the lead. You can say 32:01. That's like 5:10 per mile pace.
And that's such an amazing world record of 2:15. That
2 minutes faster than the second fastest time, also held by Paula Radcliffe here in Chicago, and that's 1.5 minutes faster than any other woman in history's ever run.
And I don't know that anybody in this field is planning on trying to hit that time today. I think if they came anywhere close to the course record time of 2:17, they'd be very happy. This is exciting, though, to see Amy Hastings up there. And initially we were wondering, well, is she just going in way over her head? But factoring in what she went through 5K in 17:14, she's running a right about 2 hours and 25-minute pace, which is very much within her wheelhouse of ability.
It would be 2 minutes lower than her personal best right now, 2:27.17 that she did in Los Angeles.
Yeah, but that was years ago in 2011. That was her debut marathon, in which she got second place. But she's been training in Providence, Rhode Island for the last couple of years. She's training with 2 world-class athletes and a world-class coach. Ray Tracy, Providence College coach from Ireland, and he's Molly Huddle, a great American track runner. Kim Smith from New Zealand, a great runner as well. So Amy's got great training partners, a great coach, and she's had a great build-up to this particular marathon. So her goals are being well established. She's running well within herself. The big surprise isn't Amy. It's Rita Jeptoo and Florence Kiplagat, Mari Dababa, etc.
Right, but I think they have her in their sights. If you look back behind her to the left, you can see that pack of women runners that are lurking there. And the only danger would be if they were unaware that that Amy was ahead of her at this point in time.
Well, as you know, one of the things that makes the Chicago track so unique here, 29 different neighborhoods this marathon weaves its way in and out of, and right now Carol Marine is in one of them. Carol?
Yeah, Mike, I'm in Lincoln Park. We're just ahead of the elite runners, the men. Part of the joy of running this race is the experience of seeing the city, neighborhood by neighborhood. The energy of the crowd just washes over you. One high-profile elite runner who knows this firsthand is Tara Moody. She's a St. Charles native who in 2010 had a top 10 finish in this race. So Tara is sitting it out today. We recently met up to take our own little mini marathon tour and talk about what these runners are seeing and hearing.
Chicago Marathon as we look at the men's field right now.
What a day, huh?
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Oh, man.
The city looks glorious. Although these athletes, Ed, for the most part, people say, well, how'd you like the course and how'd you like the beauty of the city?
What course?
And they pay no attention to they're monitoring that pack so tightly that they're oblivious of almost anything outside their margins.
Well, and the men have been very consistent at running right at course record time. They hit 446, 443, 444 for their last few miles. And to hit that course record, they've got to average about 443 per mile. So you can tell that they're going for their water bottles, their fluid stations, and that's a good sign as well.
Well, we've got a whole other group of people who are waiting, just waiting to get started. The second wave start. There they are, the masses. This is the moment they've been waiting for.
And it's these wave starts which allow 45,000 people to be on the course simultaneously.
And they are off. The common man, the common woman, about to do something very uncommon, set a PR, whatever it is. This is the moment they've been waiting for. You know, since 1977, the very first race here in Chicago, 623,590 runners have finished this race.
Yeah, it's astounding. It used to be, if you used to, back in 1980, there were 25,000 marathon finishers in the United States. If you went to a party and said that you were a marathon runner, oh my goodness, you were like the star of the day. Now you're every other Joe. I mean, this fitness revolution has just spread.
Well, exactly. Now the question is, how many marathons have you run? Not have you run a marathon?
Yeah. And what was your time? What was your split time now? Yeah.
Now, it really has taken over the world in many ways. I mean, we have the World Marathon Major Series that goes on. Every major city in the world is represented with a marathon. But I'm telling you, Chicago is absolutely at the top of the heap.
Well, it's, you know, it's the only sport where you can compete on the same playing field, so to speak, as the pros do.
Well, you know where you stand, that's for sure. You know exactly where you stand. When somebody, I mean, a couple of weeks ago in Berlin, somebody sets the world record, and there's 30,000 people in that race. Well, I know where I was, exactly where I was. You don't hypothesize, of course, you being a pro athlete yourself, but everyone else that watches the games on Sunday, etc., we can hypothesize as to what we might do out there, besides get killed. But in this sport, you know exactly where you stand against the best in the world.
Yeah.
And here they are, the best in the world, with our three pacers leading the charge. They went through 10 kilometers in 29 minutes and 27 seconds. That is 6 seconds slower than the 2013 record, but right in line. They're right in line.
Yeah, that's what they need to be doing. They're very close. They're within a few seconds of that. They've got a nice rhythm going. So if they can continue that rhythm going, I think we really have a good shot at a course record time.
That's Wesley Career wearing the Kenya colors in the back of this pack. And of course, what wasn't stated when we interviewed him earlier this year, a remarkable human being, not just the 2012 Boston Marathon champion, but between 2012 and 2013, he ran for parliament and won a seat as a member of the Kenyan parliament. That's like a world-class American athlete becoming a congressman in the middle of their elite professional career. Just a
like Bill
stunning,
Bradley, yeah.
a stunning young man.
Let's take a look at the men's Xfinity world record splits right now. This is what Dennis Cometto did last month in Berlin.
And so 29-24 was their 10K split here today in Chicago, 29-27, right there. So it's that kind of day. And so that's why we're a little bit squirrely here, and we're a little bit anxious in our stomach, even here is a little bit of butterflies, because there's no telling what we might see.
Well, that being the case, we're going to let you get rid of your butterflies to a certain extent right now. We're going to take a break, and we'll be back with more of the 2014 Bank of America Chicago Marathon after this timeout. go to our men's lead vehicle and Greg Meyer. Greg? We've lost communications with him. He's there, but the audio isn't there.
And I think we've already seen that Wesley Career, I think, might have, what we've seen, we saw one athlete drop off, and from the colors, it looks like it might have been Wesley Career. Being a member of Parliament, this guy's a 2:06 man, former second-place finisher here, fifth-place finisher, winner of Boston. The problem is, as a member of Parliament, he can't do nearly the training that he did when he was just a full-time professional athlete, and that's what's telling. But he's given up in his athletic career in many ways for a higher cause, and that's what makes him so special.
All right, let's check in on the women and go to our women's lead vehicle and Joan Benoit Samuelson. Joni.
She and Greg are having lattes.
Yeah.
But I think what's happening is the story here on the women's side, just as we get our pictures together, is Amy Hastings from Providence, Rhode Island, where she is living and training right now. Amy Hastings has a 15-second lead after the 10-kilometer mark, 6.2 miles. Now, they're nowhere near the pace that they anticipated. They're about 3 minutes, off that at just the halfway mark, Ed. And Amy Hastings is, because it's a mixed race, the women are running within the men's, overall field. It easily could be that she gets snuck away. The other athletes are looking at just at the two men pacers in front of them, don't even realize she's out there. Or if they realize she's out there, they're not taking her seriously.
Well, what has to happen is the men pacers have to do a better job because they're running so much slower than they should be that Amy Hastings, who is just on record to run a personal best.
But nothing
yeah, exactly. She's running at 2 hours and 25-minute pace, which is very much within her wheelhouse. But the elite women are being almost retained or had a governor put on them by the men pacers. So the men pacers need to pick up their act a little bit.
Well, the women got to go slap them on the backside and say, come on, the men, pick it up. I mean, it's up to the women to also know where they are. At the same time, we very much saw a historical moment at the Boston Marathon this April when Meb Keflezighi became the first American in 31 years to win the Boston Marathon title because the guys, the Kenyans and Ethiopians behind, didn't take him seriously, and they let him get too big of a margin. Yeah. You can't let this go too long, but you still think the women can run her down.
Okay, let's go back to the Lakeview neighborhood, and our Kai Martin is standing by. Chicago Marathon, the men went the 9th mile in 4 minutes and 55 seconds. Let's go to the men's lead vehicle and Greg Meyer. Greg?
We're starting to see a little attrition here. Wesley, as you saw, dropped off about a mile or so ago, this way back. Right now, Lalese is fighting to stay close to the pack. He's about 5 yards back. Everyone else seems to be running well. Kitwara and Kipchoge seem to be having some discussion every now and then, but they're about the only two that actually have communicated back and forth. It's very intense, really, and you can see it's starting to string out and open up.
Well, doggone. That's the nature of communications here in 2014. We can let you know at the 15-kilometer mark, that's 9.3 miles, they went through in 44:13. That's 15 seconds slower than in 2013. But once again, the breeze that does exist is now coming into their face as we lose. Now, Faisa Lalisa, who's been on the podium twice here, the third in that unbelievable race in 2010 between Sammy Wanjiru, the late great, and Sergei Kebede. He was third in that race, and he's been the second in 2013. Well, he in 2012, rather, he missed most of 2013. He dropped out of the World Championships. He dropped out of a fall marathon in Frankfurt, Germany. This year in London in April, he only was 9th place in 2013. He had some injuries. He was hoping to do better than London, and but it's a long way from sub 208 back to 203, 204 pace.
All right, let's take this time here to take a look at the world record Xfinity splits, world record splits. Again, Dennis Cometto's Berlin Marathon back in September.
44:10. We're just 3 seconds off of that here in Chicago. But what they did in Berlin is they had a relatively controlled, by these standards, relatively controlled first half of the race and then busted it out hard in the second half, and especially the last 5-6 miles. That's where the record was really set, in that 18 to 21 mile gap.
Right. Okay, do you know that it was 30 years ago today that Stevie Jones taught the field to play. Steve.
Good prize money, good appearance money, and what Bob Wright did in '83 and '84 and '85 was he put on a great foot race, and I think that's what we should be doing now.
Yeah, that was the old race director back in the day. And then Kerry Pinkowski was working in Chicago as the liaison with the Chicago Area Runners Association, has now taken this 8,000-person race and developed into a 45,000-person race, and also having one of the fastest fields every year on this field.
Every year, you know, the best runners in the world still come to Chicago.
And that's become the tradition that you started back then. But are you surprised? Are you surprised by the times these guys run these days?
No, because if you go back and look at my 85 race, I think even at 19 miles, I was still on 2:03 pace. So I came that close to doing it myself. So I figured that they're capable of doing it.
Besides the times, what's changed the most in this sport?
It's very commercialized. There's a lot more great runners around now than there was back in my day. And also, because the bar is set so high now, it's always a field of a field of excellence. You know, everybody's performing really well, and you get the best people in the world.
One of the things that has changed, though, Steve, in 1984, the top 10 places in the race, a different country in every position. Yeah. Nowadays, it's turned into kind of a dual meet between Kenya and Ethiopia.
Like I say, I think the bar has been risen so high that I think most people think it's out of their reach. You know, back in my day, and Carlos's and Deeks, the bar was just a little bit above us, and we kept chipping away at that. And I think there's fundamentally a coaching and a training philosophy that needs to be adapted to raise the standard in the other countries. It's still great to see great foot races, and these guys are putting on a great race right now. It's good for the sport, I think.
Okay, our Greg Meyer is on the men's lead vehicle, and I know he wants to be part of this conversation. What do you remember most about the marathon man?
He's a tough guy, you know. I spent some time with Greg over the years. We've trained together a little bit. I've stayed at his house and his place on the lake. We've had great fun over the years. Very tough competitor, unbelievable finish when he's in there with a chance, and I always relish racing against him.
Yeah. Well, Greg's on the men's lead vehicle. It looks like we've got a pretty good, clear view of what's going on there, Greg.
We do, and I think everybody right now is still running within themselves. The pace is really high, 2:04, 2:05, so nobody should be dropping off. Lalesse seems to be struggling the most. He drops back, pulls back up again, but everybody looks comfortable at this pace, but they should, because I think they've fallen off course record pace. They're going to have to pick up that second half, which is what we expect to see happen.
Okay, thanks, Greg. And Steve, thank you so much for joining us. Great to see you.
Welcome.
All right, congratulations on the glory days, man.
Hey, thank you.
All right, let's check in with Kai Martin and more on the weather. Kai?
Okay. What was that, 90?
Alicia, excuse me.
Anyway, to give you a little bit of perspective, I'm within the first mile. The start line is just down the road. We're on Columbus Drive. You see the runners right behind me waving to us, saying hello to us. Very inspirational to see them at this point. Just getting started, though, right around the bend on Grand. That's when they hit their first mile. Temperatures, though, for us out here, we're in the 40s, the mid-40s right now. There is a light breeze out of the southeast at about 5 to 10 miles per hour, so it's at their backs right now. And as they go through the course of the race, 48 degrees, that will be the temperature for most, even as we head through the next couple hours or so. But once they get to mile 8, the wind will be at their face. So we'll talk a little bit more about that in just a few moments, and we'll send it over to you.
So 225 pace.
Yeah, just to put it.
And we'll be back with more of the Bank of America Chicago Marathon after a break. Marathon. These are the runners who haven't even, their race hasn't even started yet. They are back in the corral and as far back as you can see them. So again, as you were mentioning earlier, Tony, we have no idea what 45,000 runners look like until you see something like this.
Well, if they did it all at one time, I think they realized you can't do more than 25,000 because it just gets too bunched up. And so now when they go on and wave start after wave start after wave start, more people who want to get into these marathons can actually be accommodated on the street.
All right, let's talk about the 7 guys who do matter there. You can see the Kenyans in the orange jerseys. That would be Sammy Kitwara and Bernard Koech. And in the lime green, our favorites, Bekele, Kipchoge, and Lalesa from Ethiopia.
And they're tucked away in that pack. They're still been content not to go out in the lead or even be right behind the rabbits. So I think they're doing what needs to be done right now. Their pace that they're on right now is just right a little bit under 2:05 pace, but they're setting themselves up for a fast finish.
One of the differences, again, last year, as I'm looking at my notes from last year's race, last year the wind was coming from the northwest at about 9 miles an hour. This year it's coming from the southeast. So it was pushing them throughout the whole midsection of the race and only against them in the final 5 kilometers. So it was, in that sense, the wind direction was more advantageous last year, and that's why it might be a little bit slower times through this entire stretch south on the course.
All right, let's go to the women's lead racers right now. Joni?
Well, the African women are back in the lead. Amy Hastings fell back at about just around the 8-mile mark. But in the lead pack, we have, of course, Rita and the 2 Dababas. And Florence Kiplagat is at the leading edge right now. And Joletta Burka is still in that lead pack. They're looking very smooth. I don't think they're going to hit their goal time of 109 at the half. They're probably on 224 pace right now, having just gone through 10 miles. But I think we're definitely going to see negative splits here today, especially if they're going to run sub 220, as 3 of these runners have already done.
Joni, when you were in the game, you did not have pace setters at all. I'm not sure you would have paid attention to them at all. Can it be a distraction? How much of a help is it, and how much do you sort of over-depend on them sometimes?
Well, I think Rita is in her own little world. I mean, she is eyeing her competition. I think she was very concerned with Amy at first, but the pack moved together. The Pacers are still with their respective runners. Joe Moore is with Amy Hastings, and she has held on to this lead pack. She really looks strong. She looks comfortable. She seems to be nodding to the crowd, saying, I'm okay, I'm in this race. And the others are looking very carefully at their fluid bottles at the respective fluid stations, and they're now starting to take water with every opportunity. So I think the pace setters are now getting it. They're looking back at the woman more regularly, and they're doing their job. Maybe not so much at the beginning of the race.
All right, thanks, John. Let's go to the men's lead vehicle, Greg Meyer. Greg, what's up?
A little bit of separation as we went through the last water stop. Like the women, I think the pace setters have thrown this off a little bit. You can see Kipchoge and others sort of move to the front, like, why aren't we running faster? And then they'll drop back a little bit, but it's like they're prompting the pacers to let's get going, let's get going. Lalese still hanging on. I don't know how he's doing this. He drops back, catches up, but everyone else seems fairly comfortable. But I do think the pace setters at times have let this slow just slightly as we try to come into the half marathon, which should be in another 2 or 3 minutes.
All right, Greg, well, here's the Xfinity world record splits for 20K.
Well, 20K, 58.36, today 58.58. Last year, so they're a little bit off. Last year, we're 26 seconds off. Today, we're 26 seconds slower than we were in 2013.
But still, at 2 hours, 4 minutes, and 25-second pace. So
we said earlier, this record, do not take this stuff for granted, because this record is very, very strong.
Exactly.
And we saw earlier, like Greg was saying, the men's pacers were getting like goosed a little bit by the men. And again, the whole idea is to be as even in this as possible, because psychologically, what you're looking to have the runners do is be able to turn their brains off, and so they can save their concentration and their power for the racing late in the day. And if they're constantly have to be thinking about, are we going not just too fast, but maybe too slow, now you bring them, you're engaging them in something that you don't want them engaged in.
Yes.
For the viewers who haven't seen this before, at what point do the pacers drop off, guys?
One guy will go 13 miles, another guy will go to 15 and a half, and hopefully they're going to get somebody all the way to 18 and a half miles.
So a look at the lead men right now, and we'll have more of the Bank of America Chicago Marathon after a break.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us on phone.
Back to the 2014 Bank of America Chicago Marathon. You are looking at the lead men's field right now, and we go to our Greg Meyer. Greg?
Nothing's changed, really. These guys, I think it's the storm is building for when they get to about 18 miles, because no one seems to be wanting to press the pace. As you talked about, we're about 30 seconds off record pace. But it seems like they're more concerned about who's going to win this thing. They look around, they're sort of eyeing one another just to see who's in position, who's looking good. And right now, pretty much everybody looks good in the pack.
Well, these are brand new pacers, Greg. You look at it, you know, pacing is a very difficult thing. It's one thing to run a time. It's another thing to run the time evenly and so that it puts everyone at ease. And these guys have been yo-yoing just a little bit. Have you seen flags? It seems to me that what breeze there is might be somewhat into their left shoulder.
Tony, the breeze doesn't seem to be that big of a issue out here. You know, when I look around,
okay,
I'm not seeing it, and I thought I'd be much colder with the breeze, and I'm not. So I really do think, and Gabriel Selassie, one of the pace setters, he was waving guys up a couple of miles ago and saying, come on, let's go, let's go. But no one wanted to step up and run that pace. So I think they're just sort of set, this is what it is today. I do think you're going to see some very fast running when we get past that 25, 30 kilometer mark, because then it's going to be a race for the home, as it always is here.
Fine. It looks like Tarico Bekele, one of our pace setters, has passed the halfway and taken the bus home.
Yeah, we're down to 2.
Let's take this opportunity. All right, thanks, Greg. Let's take this opportunity right now to go to our Carol Marine. Carol?
Hello there. We are just out of Greek town, moving into Little Italy. We're just about 200 feet in front of the men elite runners. I've been counting Elvis impersonators, greeting them as we've been making our way through the city. I count 6 so far. It has been just an amazingly generous and welcoming crowd all the way through here, Mike. Sun's beginning to shine on us a little bit, and I'm just laughing at some of the people. They are just having more fun greeting these runners and telling them to keep on trucking on. Back to you, Mike.
All right, Carol, be careful of those Elvis impersonators. Thank you very much.
I'll do my best.
All right. Let's check in with Joan Benoit. Samuelson.
Well, not much has changed over here. As we just hit mile 12, we have the 5 women abreast. Amy is falling further behind at this point. They have picked up the pace. I would say we're on around a 2:23 to a 2:23:30, but they are way off their goal time of 1:09 at the halfway mark. They went through the 12-mile mark in about 1:06. So this is going to be a race. As Greg said earlier, I think the women's race is also going to be a race of attrition unless somebody makes a bold move. I think the smoothest looking runner right now is Mari Dababa. Rita is right there, but you know, literally and figuratively, they're holding their hands close to their chests. And I think part of the issue is that it's still cold out here for the women runners.
Who's the 5th woman in there, Joni? Is it Galeta Burka from Ethiopia?
Well, actually, she's maybe a step ahead of Rita at this point, but it is Galeta Burka.
So it's the
but
two
as I said, Mari
Dababas,
Dababa,
Florence, Rita, and Burka.
Yes. And I would say Amy is probably 8 seconds behind at this point. She's running a very impressive race.
Absolutely.
This will be a PR
right,
for her if she can hold on.
All right, let's take a break here and take a look at the Xfinity World Record splits for women.
Yeah, this is another time zone.
Yeah,
here.
A true standard deviation above everyone else. And certainly the women are going to close fast today because I think we have enough of them running together, and they've run conservative enough early on, but we're not going to approach Paula Radcliffe's
No, but I'd rather have, again, we've had 4 men's course records in the last 5 years, and yet the best race was the non-course record year in 2010 when Kipchoge and Sammy Jeptoo had that tremendous duel for the World Marathon Majors $500,000 title. Nobody could look at the clock because the compelling competition was too great, and that's what stacking up on both the men's side and the women's side as the women go for their aid station bottles. Competition between carbon-based life forms is always more interesting than one person running a time trial.
Yeah, at some point in time, you just stop the stopwatch and you watch the race.
You know, Kenyans have become the leaders in marathon running across the globe. In addition to charity running, has become an integral part of the Bank of America Chicago Marathon, with 190 charity teams slated to participate this year. One of these teams is Team Oasis, a local group running to rescue orphans in Kenya.
Of the men's elite runners, they've been running for 1 hour, 11 minutes, and 17 seconds at this moment. We're at mile marker 15, which is Damon Avenue. It's run by Malcolm X College. It has been an amazingly clear day, a nice kind of cool run. But the question is whether we will break any world records here in the Chicago Marathon. This time around, we have 45,000 runners participating. The average age, I'm always so interested in this, of the men runners is 39.5. The average age of the women, just a little younger, 35.6. And yes, there are 4 people who are 80 years or older who are running this marathon. Right ahead of me are the men's elite runners, and behind them, a lone cyclist rider. It is just amazing to see the strength and the power, and also the contrast. There have been a number of blind runners who have been doing this marathon. They are paired with sighted people just to make sure there is some degree of safety, but it is a level of determination in the face of every single one of these people, no matter what category they fall into. And you can hear, perhaps, as we're going through neighborhoods now, right by Malcolm X, people cheering and calling. There are cowbells, there are cheerleaders, there are Elvis impersonators. Yes, Elvis is out here in about 25 different iterations of what Elvis might be looking like these days. In some of these neighborhoods, there are fewer people, but no matter whom we see, it is great generosity in the city of Chicago. For the Chicago Marathon and NBC5, I'm Carol Marine.
The men's lead vehicle, and he was talking about this man that is sitting to our left, Dathan Ritzenhein, who ended up finishing 5th last year in a time of 2:09:45. His best time was the year prior to that in 2:07:47, but he finished 9th. It's a funny business, the world of marathon running, huh?
Yeah, it just totally depends on how the race sets up, how the course is, but how the weather is, you know. And for me, these guys last year, they went out so fast that I was buried back there, but they just completely unraveled at the end because it was so fast.
Dathan, your take on what you've seen so far?
You know, they started out really aggressively that first mile, and now they settled in, but as they've gotten going again towards this middle half of the race here, it's really heating up now, so I'm kind of wondering if we won't see quite as big of a move than maybe we saw like 2 years ago when they really ratcheted it down and then they made a lot of time back up.
What do you think about the fact that they just threw down a 4:34 mile? Is that going to do some damage?
That's early at this stage. A lot of times in these marathons in the last couple of years, you've seen that maybe after the pacemakers drop out, and so it's kind of interesting to see that this early on.
Well, pacing is a tough game, as we said before. People take for granted that if you can run a very fast half marathon, we'll just do that here. But it's one thing to run it fast in competition, another thing to try to do it in a controlled fashion. Psychologically, a lot of pressure on those guys.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this is a livelihood for them, too. Those pacemakers up front, this is going to be determined if they get the next gig where they make money, you know, maybe at the next major marathon where they can pace, too, because a lot of times these guys do this specifically for a living.
Now, of course, Dathan, you've recently moved back home to Michigan from your Oregon base for the last few years. How's that going for you?
That's been good. I mean, both me and my family are from there, so when we came back to run Chicago here the last 2 years, it kind of felt like hometown for me. And so to be able to come back again, now I've been over here in Chicago 4 or 5 times. I've seen Mike a few times here, you know, in the last couple of months, and so it's exciting for me. It kind of feels like a hometown thing for me to be back.
You know, when I watched you last year and the year prior, from a gamesmanship standpoint, how difficult was it to be the only American in that elite field when you've got 3 Kenyans going against you, 3 Ethiopians against you?
Well, that's the thing that makes these major marathons so hard. It's actually harder than being in the Olympics, where in the Olympics you have maybe your 3 other teammates. There's only 3 Kenyans. There are only 3 Ethiopians. So here, it's really very hard. You're in a pack there with these guys. They talk to each other. You don't know what they're saying. You know, so as an American, you're kind of at a disadvantage there.
We have a lot of Americans in the field here today, but we don't have the same quality of Dathan or the Meb Keflezighi or the Ryan Hall. But there's a whole bunch of guys who are here trying, both men and women, trying to qualify for the Olympic trials. There's an A standard and a B standard. In fact, Ed, you have one of your runners here from BYU.
Yeah, I mean, that B standard has gotten, they've upped the ante a little bit. They've got to run 2 hours and 18 minutes, I believe, 2 hours and 15 minutes to get the A standard. What do you think about having the A standard set that fast?
Well, the Olympic trials, it's really supposed to be a small focus group. It's the people that really are going to make the team. And so some of the guys like that we see here, you know, they want to make that time no matter what, but really they want to establish themselves in a year and a half to really make that team. And so, you know, they're coming to a fast race like this. That 2:15 is, you know, everybody else is getting faster. The world record keeps coming down. We got to keep bringing our standards down too as well to try to be as competitive as possible. If we just keep where we've been at the last ones, we'll never get there. And so we have to keep bringing it down, just like the East Africans have been too.
Okay, as we look at the men's leaders, let's go down to our men's lead vehicle and Greg Meyer. Greg, what's going on?
You know, it's just been interesting to watch Lalese fall off the back and then just grind his way back into it again. And he's right now reattaching himself. It felt like the pace slowed a little bit, 4:44 for the last mile. You could see the pack bunch up. One of the things that's interesting to me, though, as I look at this, and Tony, you were right, I was wrong about the wind. There is some strong wind out of the south. But when I look at the athletes, almost all of them are sweating, except Kipchoge. He's not sweating. He looks comfortable. Now, you don't know whether it's because he just doesn't sweat, or is he within himself to the point where he's not at the same stress level as the rest of them. But
I think he probably does sweat.
Yeah,
I would think he does. But today he's, well, a guy like Brian Deemer, former bronze medalist in the Olympics, he didn't sweat. So on a warm day, he was in trouble. But some people have a different thermostat than others. But he looks...
But it's a nice, you know, Greg, I said it's a nice cool day, so it probably is that ladder you were talking about. He's probably pretty comfortable.
I think he is. When the pace slows, he seems to be the one that gets up close to the front and sort of reminds them that, hey, listen, we want to keep this thing honest. Let's keep going. Bekele, at least for the last 7 miles or so, has been on the back side of the pack, out of trouble, not looking up. I also wonder a little bit if he might have a bit of a cold, because I've noticed every now and then he's cleaning his nose. He's doing different things where typically that's what you would see if someone's got a little bit of a problem. But they're all hanging in. They're all comfortable. What we're seeing is Kerry Pinkowski's work at bringing in 7 or 8 guys that are all 2.4, 2.5. They can all run this pace. It's going to be who runs faster today than they did in the past.
You know, what's interesting is, speaking of having a little cold, one of the signs that we who follow the sport closely have is when you, of course, an elite athlete is constantly having their immune system suppressed as the training, that hard training compromises your system. So you're always on one step away from the sickbed when you're fittest athlete of your career. But at the same time, Ken Anissa has his wife and his 3 young children with him. And having your kids around is sometimes can be very, I mean, for an athlete, it's easy to get sick.
Oh, absolutely. You know, when I was, the first 2 years of my kids being born, I was sick all the time, nonstop. And so, you know, every athlete thinks that, though. When they're out there, you know, the couple days leading up to it, the guy who sneezes next to you, the guy who coughs next to you in the airport, you're looking at him, giving him the weird look. You don't touch doorknobs, nothing, because this has all been so much, you know, has gone into this preparation that you don't want any one little thing like that to get you off.
Everyone's a germaphobe. I say everyone is Howard Hughes, just without the money.
We're talking about Bekele's, you know, okay, we'll have to, before I get off on this thought, we're going to go over to the women's lead vehicle, and Joni Scott, what's going on there? Joan?
Well, we were 5 abreast, and now we are a tight pack of 4. Florence Kipchoge has the slight edge over Berhane Dababa and Mari Dababa, and Rita is a half stride, if that, off the others. You know, this is going to be a race to the finish, and I think it's going to be interesting to see who's going to make the daring move, and I'm guessing
all morning long, so stay with us as our coverage continues, because, man, it is getting really excited down here.
All right, thank you very much, Andy. As we take a look at the women, they've gone through mile 16. Their split time 5:27. And once they get out of the shade, we'll be able to identify.
Well,
you can see Rita Jeptoo right in the middle. Yeah.
Rita Jeptoo's on the right-hand side of the screen. Then the 2 Dababas and Florence Kipchoge all in a row. So those 4 women are running right along and well within themselves, Ed, at this pace.
Jeptoo looks very comfortable there. She's looking around to her right, sees the other 3 runners there, but she looks very comfortable, and she's been right there at the front the entire time, taking her fluids at the fluid station, and I think is running within herself. And this is exciting because we have 4 women together this late in the race, and I think as the synergy of that pack continues, we're going to see a fast finish.
Well, what we've got, of course, is the Rita Jeptoo this April and red sub 220 in Chicago last year on a similar kind of weather day. In Boston on a nice day, she ran under 219, and now they're running 224. So it's like a hard tempo run at some point. So they're going to just rip this last 10K, it would seem. This is a classic long run heading toward a very short, intense race.
And I got to believe that Florence Kipchoge, coming off that world record half marathon, has just got to be full of confidence. If she's getting through this first part comfortably, then I think she'll feel like she can close that much faster.
And if Rita can somehow break sub 220, she would join Catherine Nareba and Paula Radcliffe as the only women racers to have 3 sub 220 marathons under their belt, as we bring in Joan Benoit Samuelson. She's on the women's lead vehicle and right there with the women. Joan?
Not to take anything away from the top 4 women at this point, but I have to call out Amy Hastings. She has now passed Gilletta Burka. She is closing the distance on the lead pack. We talked about pacers doing their job earlier in the broadcast. Well, I'll tell you, Joe Moore is doing his job with Amy. It could be very interesting.
But Joni, this pace was what Amy was hoping to run all along, so this is right where she wanted to be. We expected the other women to be well up the road.
Exactly. So anything could happen here. I mean, I have never seen Amy run like this. She is running a strong and steady race. She seems unfazed by the changes and fluctuations in the race at hand. And I'm not counting her out yet, especially if somebody drops the hammer and people start to fall off. She could potentially have a top 3 finish here, which would be unbelievable.
Well, Amy, Joni, from your standpoint, Greg was saying that of the men's pack, Eliud Kipchoge looked using the least effort of those top.
Turned into a 3-man race. Let's go to Greg Meyer on the men's lead vehicle. Greg.
between 19 and 21 miles, it sort of blew up. Kitwara really did a lot of the work. He went to the front after the pace setters dropped and sort of upped the ante just a bit. But the funny part is the time doesn't indicate that it's a huge surge. But Bekele was one of the first guys to drop off. Koech was next. Now it's down to 3. Sammy Kitwara, Kipchoge, and Chumba. Chumba, interestingly, beat Kitwara in Tokyo earlier this year in winning that race. So they know each other well. Hopefully Kitwara thinks he can turn the tables on him over these last few miles. But again, these 3 look good, but I just noticed Chumba turning around and looking for where that next runner is. Never a good sign. Never a good sign.
Right. Kitwara has never won a marathon. Is now Chumba goes back to the front. Kipchoge has won 2 of his 3 career marathons. So there's a little bit of gamesmanship now as Chumba went to the front and challenged. And that's what's going to happen after that relatively moderate early pace. They've got, I know they've got a lot of play left in their legs, Greg, where they can afford to really surge now.
Well, and Eliud Kipchoge of the 3 has the most experience. It looks to me like he's just kind of biding his time behind him, or do you see a break taking place?
What I look at when I see this is I think of the mentality of a track athlete. Kipchoge, Bekele coming off the track, they're used to sitting on someone's shoulder. Separation is never a good thing for a track athlete. When I see even a gap open up of 2 or 3 meters, I don't see that as a good sign for him. I think he should be right on their shoulders. I think they're trying hard to create some of that separation right now. And what we're going to see over the next 2 miles is, can they break Kipchoge before it becomes the last mile? Because he has the advantage there.
Sammy Kitwara.
Dixon Chumba.
Dixon Chumba from Kenya.
And again, it was Dixon Chumba who won the Tokyo Marathon earlier this year, which is the newcomer in the World Marathon Majors Series. And earlier this year, it was Kipchoge winning the very fast Rotterdam Marathon in 2:05 flat. But it's a 3-man race as they take this turn.
Yeah. And Chumba beat Kitwara there in Tokyo, but I've got to love Eliud Kipchoge's positioning right now. He was a silver medalist at the Olympics at 5,000 meters, so we know he has the leg speed, and I think he's going to be content just to be right up there and wait for that final turn and finish.
And Dathan, we were talking about in the break that just the small corruptions in form that you see, that people, if you look at it watch sports for a long period of time, you see those really nuanced things, and it's like Kipchoge is just planing straight forward, shoulders straight across, head still straight up and high.
He looks like nothing's changed from the beginning of the race. He's still, everything is completely even. Whereas Kitwara, you're starting to see, his head's tilting, his arms are coming down. Chumba just keeps coming off the back just a little bit.
So he's on that yo-yo.
Yeah, and now they've just turned. You know, they're going to be coming back with the wind at their back again. And Kipchoge just looks comfortable still. And at 23 plus miles, I mean, you got to bet on a guy like that. But you never know who can dig deep, and that fuel runs out fast, too, at the end.
And also, when it starts, you can have that good patch, bad patch, where you feel great in 1 minute, next thing you know, you feel horrible, and you can't get too down, you can't get too up.
No, and absolutely. And these guys at this level, you know, they, depending on their training, they might sometimes be more prepared for a bigger move like that, and they can tolerate the blood lactate levels that build up, whereas one guy might not have had that in the training, and it can change very quickly.
One of the things we wanted to mention is the fact that Kipchoge, the guy on the left in the yellow outfit, trains with Emmanuel Mutai, who just ran 2:03.10 for second place at Berlin several weeks ago. He trains with the Olympic champion, and so his training group is among the strongest in the world. So every day he's training with guys that are better than this guy.
Yeah, he knows exactly what those guys were doing in the training. If he's been keeping up with them, he knows that he's in that same territory. And right now, they just ran the world record. He knows that he's got it in the tank as well. So, you know, the other guys, you know, if they're in a different group, they might not be in that same situation.
He's side by side with Sammy right now. What kind of gamesmanship is going on? Do they know each other exists right now?
Oh, absolutely. And, you know, you'll see one point, like just a little bit ago, we saw Kipchoge move off to the side. You know, they don't want to be necessarily right next to each other. You can hear the other guy breathing sometimes, too. And so it's always bad when someone's behind you, too. You don't know what they're doing. And so Chumba's still sitting right back there.
Yeah, Chumba's in fine position.
Greg, you know, we were talking about Sammy Kipchoge trains in the same town as Eliud Kipchoge, but not in the same camp. But they see each other out on the road every day. When you were training in the Greater Boston track club days, you know, there were other track clubs in the area. What's it mean like, because you trained with Bill Rogers, who at the time was the best distance runner in the world. What's it mean when somebody like Kipchoge is training with the Olympic champion and the second fastest marathoner in history?
You hear all of the workouts. You know what's going on in a community like that. And now, even in the U.S. with the internet, you know how people are training across the country. They're well aware of one another, I think. What I found interesting was once Bekele broke, I swear Kipchoge at times was smiling out here. He knows, given the confidence level that you talked about in training with the best in the world, that he can run with these guys. It's right now Kitwara and Chumba's job to try to get away, and I don't see them doing that right now.
They seem to holding on to. They seem to be just tolerating the pace that's being set by Kipchoge.
They really do. They're keying off him, but I give Kitwara a lot of credit in this race. He's done a lot of the work, and although his form is not as smooth as the two that he's running with, he's looked like that since the start. This is just his form. He's more of a gangly guy out there. He's not compact like Chumba and Kipchoge. So this is just who he is. But it'll be interesting to see what happens over this next really mile and a quarter. Less than that now. I swear,
Sammy Kipchoge said his target for this race was 2:04:28. We'll find out about that as our coverage of the Bank of America Chicago Marathon continues after a break. Stay with us. And it's turned into a one-man race here at the Chicago Marathon, the 2014 Bank of America Chicago Marathon. This man has made his move, Eliud Kipchoge from Ethiopia. Kenya, excuse me.
And he just blew him away in an hour and 56 minutes into the race, and it looked like he just got close enough to smell the barn, and he just put the boot in, and it just destroyed them within about 10 strides.
It's in his last mile now, and I think we just saw a knockout punch is what we saw there. They had a little rise they were going up over, and he put the pedal to the metal and just pulled away.
They just hit that last bottle station there as well, and he grabbed that thing. He's still holding on to it, trying to get everything he can out of it, but that was a decisive move.
Greg, how's he looks? We were saying he looked fabulous before he made the move. Then he really struck hard.
Tony, I swear to God, he was smiling right before he took off. He knows. I think for the last few miles, he's just sensed this is his race. Now he's dropped that water bottle. Look at his hands. His hands have now come up into that track mode. He's just smooth. It's just beautiful to watch. Just beautiful to watch.
Yeah, we talked to him earlier, and he said he made the transition from being a track runner to a longer distance runner very easily. He actually enjoyed the training. Kenenisa Bekele, who's been his nemesis and rival throughout the years, beating him 12 out of the 15 times they've raced on the track, said he thought marathon training at first was boring. He didn't like the longer pace, the slower pace at the longer distance, and he had to be talked into it by his manager. Eliud Kipchoge, and this is what he hoped would happen, his experience at the distance and his love for the distance is the difference, at least today.
Yeah, and you got to really love what you're doing. It's a full-time job, and so you could see it, though. He still loves to race. He was the world champion at 5,000 meters 11 years ago, and he still looks as good now as he did back then.
Okay, 1:57:51 for 40K. His PR 2:04:05, which he set in Berlin last year.
1:57:15 was last year's split at 40K. So he's still, 35 seconds off, and he's not going to make that up in the last mile, but it's going to be a very fast.
Yeah, he's going to run low 2:04, and is just moving so very well right now. And Kitwara had run this 3 times in the past, so he had that experience, and that would have been in his benefit. But the fact is, Kipchoge is so much more powerful, and is just powering away with every stride. It looks very comfortable. I agree with Greg. He is smiling. He's smiling, and he knows he has this thing in the bag.
is a university graduate, has a degree in human resources. His coach is Patrick Sang, a former silver medalist in the steeplechase, the 3,000-meter steeplechase event on the track. A very well-regarded coach in Kenya, and it looks like Kipchoge is headed toward that as well. A very clever man, considered a very smart trainer, knows how to get his body into peak form, and he's going to take that experience and all these victories throughout his career, and he was hoping that he'll become a coach later in his career when his running days are over.
And you could see that confidence from Kipchoge even in the press conference 2 days ago. He was sitting back, he was cool, calm, and he was even playing mind games, it looked like, with Bekele a little bit in terms of saying that he had more experience over Bekele, even though Bekele had 17 world championships to his credit, that Kipchoge, because of his experience, was going to take this one home.
Right, then the race is still on the women's side of the equation as Kipchoge is well on his way to victory. And the Pacers, the thing is about now, because you have men pacers, Kenyan men pacing the women, they can go the entire distance, which gives them quite an advantage. But just like the men were slightly slower than they anticipated, but not much, the women were significantly slower than they had hoped to go, which means the racing should all lie ahead for them as well.
And so much for that Ali Frazier kind of thing that was going on beforehand. The storyline was, you know, Bekele versus Kipchoge, road versus track, and let's do it on the road. And he's done that today. Kenenisa fell off the pace a long time ago.
Should we show it?
Looks like there's a battle going on between Kitwara and Chumba now.
Yeah, and that's Kitwara in front with Chumba just behind him.
And Kitwara he ran well the last few years, but he did fade in the last mile or two. And so Chumba's definitely, he's sensing that.
And again, he beat him in Tokyo in January.
Right.
And it looks like Bekele, I think, behind them, back a ways there. So he's still not, I mean, that distance is deceptive on TV sometimes, but he's still, he's still in there, and really the way Kitwara looks, it's not unreasonable to think that he couldn't come up as well and get on the podium.
Well, Kitwara looks like he's suffering a little bit more from my perspective as Kipchoge in front looks like he's just beautifully motoring. It's one of those days when you're all firing on all cylinders. You literally feel, not figuratively, literally, I could do this forever.
Right. He's turning the corner here, and he's coming up to close to, this is about 500 meters to go. This is really the only hill, but it seems...
Up Roosevelt Road.
It feels big, though.
Yeah, it does.
Well, there's no hill ever on the course. The one thing feels like the mountain.
And he looks like a 5,000-meter runner going right here. He's got the nice arm carriage, good leg turnover, and a high back kick, and he is feeling good.
Right, just the opposite of corruption of form. This is the elegance of form. It's cleaned up the faster he's gone.
He's just going to miss his PR, but this is still a very strong run for him, and he's been so consistent. This is every single one he's ran well now, where usually someone falls off.
This is also his first World Marathon Major title, because his victories have come in Frankfurt and in Rotterdam, which are excellent marathons, but they're not members of the World Marathon
Majors.
Majors.
There's the final turn. He sees the finish line at this point in time, and he is moving well. That's Eliud Kipchoge. He was one of our pre-race favorites, and he has delivered today.
Well, he won't get the course record set last year by Dennis Kimeto of Kenya, 2:03.45, but this is going to rank among the top 10, certainly, of finishes here in Chicago. An amazing race run today by Eliud Kipchoge of Kenya.
.204.12 unofficially, the winning time.
Just 7 seconds off his personal best, but what a day he had.
Looks like Sammy Kitwara is holding on for second place.
It's a big PR for him as well.
And Dixon Chumba will take third. 1, 2, 3 for the Kenyans.
Well, 1 year and
Chumba with the big PR as well, 2:04.33 and change.
She has opened up a considerable lead. I'd say she's got at least 50 yards now on Mari Dababa. And Florence is still jockeying with Mari for that second place position. But Berhane has fallen off, and what could happen is Amy could still close on Berhane. But this is going to be Rita's race unless she trips and falls, I would think, at this point.
Yeah, she doesn't show any signs like this. She's all out.
Yeah, no, she is working for this, but, you know, she was so well within her comfort zone for so long. You know, we have the 3 sub-220 marathoners here, and they were in position to win this race for the longest time. Berhane is the only one outside of the 220 barrier, and she, when you talk about, you know, looking smooth, she looked great, and I was surprised she was the first one to falter in the lead pack of 4.
You know, you see her in the press conferences and everything, and she looks like this fragile little doll. But then you watch her race, and you watch her run, and you watch the power. She's anything but.
Oh, look at that turnover. I mean, efficient speed. Yep. I mean, this is someone who didn't really run on the track, came right to the half marathon and marathon. And she's flowing home.
All right, let's go to the finish line right now. Stephen Holt is with our men's winner, Eliud Kipchoge.
Here he is, Mike. Kipchoge, Eliud Kipchoge, you just had a wonderful race. How did it feel coming across the finish line there?
Actually, I feel comfortable. I am happy to be the winner of Chicago. Although I missed my target, but to win this is a big marathon. I am happy to be the winner after going all these streets of Chicago. I say thank you.
A win at a world major, and you were running really quickly there at the end. You said you wanted to run here in Chicago because of speed, and you said you missed your target there a second ago. What was your target? What were you trying to accomplish?
Well, I say really I want to win Chicago. I have won. I say I want to get my BB town, but I missed a little bit, but all in all, I can say I'm happy to be the winner. Yes.
A little close there as well with Kitwara and Shumba at the end. To the folks back home in Kenya, what would you like to say to them?
I can say to them who are at home, thank you for your support spiritually. Thank you for your support. Those who are watching TV and pushing me, even if they are not here, thank you. I appreciate everything. I tell the fans of Chicago they are very good. Very, very good. Thank you, the cheerers. Thank you very much, and hope to see you next year.
Eliud Kipchoge, thank you so much. Congratulations. Nice job in Chicago.
Thank you very much.
All right. There you go, the men's champion. We'll send it back to you in the booth.
Thanks, Stefan. Officially a time of 2:04:11. What a gracious winner, but we still have to bring Rita Jeptoo home. We'll do that as our coverage of the 2014 Bank of America Chicago Marathon continues in a heartbeat.
All right, we are back here in Lakeview. I'm Kai Martin along North Broadway. This is really the great part of the Chicago Marathon is all of these runners. They're just everyday people that have trained to do the marathon in maybe 4.5 hours, maybe 5 hours. That's the group that we're seeing right here. Everyone has a story. Everyone has a reason why they're running. Maybe it's for fitness. Maybe it's for charity. We've just seen such a wide variety of runners. And of course, we have the spectators cheering them on. We have Lily, her mom Danielle, and her dad Brian. You guys live right down the street?
Yeah, right down the street.
Yeah, right down the street.
What's been inspiring for you? What have you liked about coming out here and seeing these runners?
Yeah, it's really about the neighborhood now. They come together. Everyone really loves it on the street, and it's a lot of fun. Everyone enjoys it. She loves it. So.
Danielle, do you know anyone running?
A few people. I know people who have charities that they're running for, and also running for other charities like Pause, stuff like that. So.
Do you see them training in the neighborhood?
We know a few intense hardcore runners, and they are dedicated, and it's a lot of work. I don't know if I could do it.
They are perfect runners. Thank you. You're so great to support them. Thank you, Lily. So it's great for the people that are here to support their neighbors and their friends. And of course, it's a rewarding day for all of these folks out here. You've got everyone of all walks of life. They're all here together. Of course, this is an aid station just after mile 8. So really, this is relatively early in the race. But, you know, at this stage of the race, people are slowing down. They're enjoying the entertainment. We've got definitely some fun characters on a stage here. We have music here in Lakeview. They're taking a lot of water, and they're getting ready for the majority of this race. So from mile 8 in Lakeview, I'm Kai Martin, enjoying all the fun, and we'll send it back to our continuous coverage.
And welcome back to our coverage of the 2014 Bank of America's Chicago Marathon. And let's quickly check in with Alicia Roman.
And Mike, temperature outside 48 degrees. You can see my hair blowing. We have a slight breeze out there. The winds are out of the southeast at about 5 to 15 miles per hour as we take a look at your Columbia Sportswear forecast. Temperature 48 degrees. It is still sunny out, so that's good news. But some of the runners may be squinting, as they see the sun in their eyes. We do have more clouds on the move later on this afternoon, but for the most part, we are dry throughout the rest of the morning and as we head into the early afternoon. No rain expected until later on this evening, but yes, we do have that light breeze out of the southeast at about 5 to 15 miles per hour. By noon, we'll see that temperature at the lower 50s. So right now we're at 48, low 50s by noon. We'll send it back to you, Mike.
Okay, thank you very much, Alicia. And Rita Jeptoo, the leader in the women's race right now, is running like a slight breeze as well. Let's go down to Joni.
Well, this is Rita's race right now. She just passed mile 25, and she's on 2:24 pace, but she continues to speed up as she starts to pass men here. But I need to, again, thank Amy Hastings for making this race honest. I think when she appeared on the scene, they took note and they said, oh my gosh, she has a PR of 2:27 and she's challenging us. So I give Amy more credit for setting the pace here than the actual pace setters.
Yeah, the guy in the yellow jersey is going to be able to tell his grandchildren, say, hey, I ran next to Rita Jeptoo for about 2 feet.
Yeah, exactly. There's no way he's going to ride on her coattails into the finish. I'll tell you that right now. She's just dropping the yellow jackets and everybody else. But what a champion she is. I mean, she knows what's on the line here, and she's delivering.
Well, she hasn't lost a marathon major since 2012, and she was second in that sprint finish with Baeza, Sadie Baeza.
Well, I think as I
by
mentioned...
winning here... Go ahead, Tony.
I think as I mentioned earlier, and Tony repeated, that 4:45 last mile in Boston, I think, told the world who she is and what she has. We just passed the 1 mile to go sign.
You know, it's one thing, the most difficult thing in our sport, especially because the training is so stern and so difficult, and you're putting your body really, you're trying to get as close to the edge without compromising yourself, and it's a very fine line. And the fact that she has won the last 2 Bostons, now the last 2 Chicagos, I mean, the fact that she's kept herself together psychologically and physically is pretty astounding.
Yeah, but she's looking
and we
better
thought
now.
this was going to be a
She's looking
Johnny, we
better
thought this was
now.
going to be really tight.
Yes. Well, with Florence's
Yeah, we thought this was going to be an
amazingly.
amazingly.
Go ahead.
Well, okay. We just thought this was going to be a really tight race between her and Florence Kipchoge, but Kipchoge is like at least a minute behind right now.
And remember, this sews up the World Marathon Major Series title and the $500,000 victory, on top of which, so $100,000 for the victory in Chicago. There'll be time bonuses involved in how fast she goes. There's the unspoken appearance money, which is 6 figures that she gets. There's also a shoe company bonus for the victory in the World Marathon Majors. She's just going to walk out of here with $1.5 million, $1.6 million.
Big day for her, and that's one of the things when this World Marathon Majors has kind of evolved that and has made it very exciting in the fall. You come back and you see these races, Chicago, New York, and there's a lot of money on the line for some of these guys, and they take this money back to Kenya. That's a huge, and she's done it multiple years in a row where she's had big races.
$1,800 a year is the average annual wage.
Wow.
And she's bringing home $1.6 million. Are you kidding me?
But will she be revered when she goes back to Kenya? Will she be as the men are?
It's growing. It's growing. The women's depth in Kenya is not as great as the men's depth in Kenya because of the society and the kind of society they have. But slowly but surely, beginning with Tekla Narupe in 1994, 1995, the double New York City Marathon champion, the first African to win like that. The great Catherine Dereba, who set the world record here in 2001 in 2:18:47. Another great heroine to so many of these young women. So slowly but surely, the great depth we see in the Kenyan men is being being mirrored by the Kenyan women, and this is the next generation of great heroines.
And maybe we should just stop here for about 5 seconds and just watch her run. This is so perfect, so beautiful. You can hear the crowd. They think they're watching something special.
One of the beautiful things about this is the fact is, once again, she makes it look so effortless that it's not LeBron James windmill dunking from the foul line. You know, it's not Blake. You know, no, it's not these guys. It looks so smooth until you try doing it yourself, and then you're flailing for maybe a quarter mile to do what she does for 26 miles.
But they really are on the line. You know, it's like all out at this point. And so, like when I was coming up Michigan Avenue the last 2 years, it's like tunnel vision. You can barely put one leg in front of the other. It's everything you got, and you just can't tell that by looking at them, except for maybe Kipchoge with the smiling.
And let's watch her as she climbs this hill here. This is the one hill on the course, and she continues to look so effortless. And you know, consistency is the mark of any true champion, and she's just been so consistent over the last couple of years, winning Boston twice, hitting that course record there at Boston, that she is indeed a great champion.
Joe and Benoit Samuelson's your thoughts.
I wouldn't say that Rita has made this look effortless. She looks much better now than she did in the early stages. I'd like to hear her interview because I have a feeling she really wasn't feeling great at the start of this race. She's really loosened up now, but this has not been an effortless run for her. I know she'll be disappointed with the time, but that's not important today. What's on the line, as you mentioned earlier, is what's important to her. And to do it in style and with grace, as she always had, is what counts here. She is a role model. As Tony said, you know, the other two women who can compare to her are Tegla and Catherine, and this is the perfect triumvirate coming in right now. Just look at her go.
She ran her last mile in 5:19, and now she...
Yep.
This is her moment, and I like the fact that that one guard's kind of skewed that other runner away. Here she comes.
.224.36 unofficially at the line.
And the defending Chicago Marathon champion defends her title. And in great form.
You know, 1:12.30 first half, a 1:12.06 second half. And as Joni said, it wasn't her top end day because based on the time, and she didn't really attack the course. She had it when she needed it to win the race really close with that blistering 5:06 mile in the 23rd mile, and that really opened the 24th mile, and that really destroyed the competition. But it even goes to show when her A game isn't with her, she's still the best there is.
She's a champion no matter what. She could win Boston in 2:18. She can win here in 2:24. It doesn't matter the kind of race it is. She's going to be up near the front.
And once again, she just wraps up the World Marathon Majors title. Her fourth row, Mari Dababa. Mari Dababa coming home in second place.
She was third in Boston in the race that Rita won in 2014. She turns 25 on October 20th, so she's still relatively young. Many good years of racing ahead for her.
And there's Florence Kipchoge just flashing by in third position in just under sub 226.
Been a major feat for her since she's pulled out of last year's race because of an injury. So this had to be a great comeback here in Chicago. She walked in, her mentality when I talked to her earlier this week was no retreat, no surrender. She didn't win the race, but she didn't surrender either, that's for sure.
Kipchoge was second at London and now third here. So nice paydays for both.
It's tough at this very, very highest level. Remember, this is a sport that is practiced all around the world. And so to be number one is pretty extraordinary.
And Amy Hastings is nearing the finish as well.
This is going to be a big PR for her.
Well, she better hurry because 2:27.03 is her PR. And she's hustling. You can see her hustling in. She's got running left in her legs, but it looks like she's 2:26.50 on the clock right now. And Rahani Dababa is coming home in 4th place. And there's Amy in 2:27.03.
I think she got it. Yeah.
Well, that was tied her record. That's kind of frustrating.
Yeah, you can take anything you get at that point, but it's been a couple of years for her, too.
Right. 2011, Harry Fry, who's one of the great coordinators of the elite athletes. He comes in every year from England, and he really is like the father figure, so all week to these athletes.